Just going to run through some bearings and just working with bearings basically first of all. So if we said that the bearing of A from B is 120 degrees, then that would mean you start at true north and you turn 120. So that's 90, that's 180. So 120 will be somewhere down here. So you're going to be a person, and let's say you're going to walk on that bearing, well, you would walk along in that direction on that line. So what I want to do is I want to see what would the bearing be. So what would the bearing of, now, let's say B from A. So I want to make something really clear here. This is the bearing of A from B. So when you do the bearing of A from B, your A would be exactly out here, because that's A, right? And the part where they say from, the from is where you start from. So B is where it's from. So that's from B. And then you're going to walk in a line towards A. So that is the bearing of A from B. So what if I flip that and say what is the bearing of B from A? So in order to do that, you're going to have to draw another little cross at A. And if you're looking at the bearing of A, for B from A, you have to go to A, face north, so make sure you're facing north, turn all the way around, past east, past south, so that's 90, 180, and then you're going past west, so that's 270, all the way around until you get this line. When you look up the line, so you're looking up here, you see, up there you'll see B. Okay, so then the question is, what is that angle? Now, if this one here was 120, how am I going to get anything down at A? So first of all, what we do is we say this little angle in here will be 180 minus 120, which is 60. So that ends up being 60. So to bring that down to the other line, what we need to do is we need to do a Z and do alternate angles. So this one down here would be 60. So if I wrote it as a compass bearing, it would be north 60 degrees west, because we start north, we turn 60 degrees west. That would be as a compass bearing. But if I wrote it as a true bearing, you face north and you turn all the way around until you see B. So we need this angle, so that's 90, then 180 to there, and then this would be 270, because 3 times 90 is 3 9s are 27, 270. So 270 plus what? So what is that angle there? So if you did 90 minus 60, you would get 30, so it's 30. And I just thought another way too, that was a bit silly. 270 plus 30 would be 300. Of course, the other way would just be, the simpler way would be 360 minus 60 would be 300 degrees. That would be your bearing. Okay, so I might just look at another one. So the bearing of C from D is 240. What is the bearing of D from C? So first one's from D. So we put D there, and then we're going to turn to C. Now C is at 240, so we have to go past 90, 180, 270. So 240 would be somewhere in there. Okay, so to work out what that little angle is, that's going to be quite important. You would do 240 minus 180, which is 60. So that ends up being 60 there. Okay, so then that means this here, because it's from D, that would be D, and out here would be C. So then if you put your cross here, what is the bearing of D from C? So there's C. So this is north, south, east, west. So the bearing of D from C. So if I stand at C and then I turn around. Oh, look, D is straight here, so I don't have to go very far till I am looking straight up at D, see, up here. So the bearing, we'd need to get this little angle in here. Now, because that is 60 there, all I need to do is do an alternate angle, then that would be 60 in there. So that means that the bearing of D from C, you could write it as north 60 degrees east as a compass bearing, but you could also write it as 0, 60 as a true bearing.